Happy St George's Day.
And although the established church does move it on a few days, when it falls between April the 23rd, that is, between Palm Sunday and the second Sunday of Easter. Nevertheless, for most of us, all of us really, it's just a church calendar thing. We think of April the 23rd, don't we, as St George's Day. I'm very proud to be Welsh. And on St David's Day, I have the Welsh flag fluttering over my garage door, but today it's all about being English, and it's the flag of St George that is proudly displayed outside my home. St George, a 3rd century person, lots of myths and tales and uncertainties about his life, of course, because it was so far back in time, but born in the Roman Empire, what is now modern day Turkey, died in the city of Lydda, which is now modern day Lod in Israel, although some people think he was perhaps born there. So lots of things that you're not 100% sure about. But he lived, and myths and tales and legends and stories abound about him and people from that period as we look back. But of course, the one that we all think of is St George and the dragon. In what is now modern day Libya, there was a city that was besieged by a dragon, and 2 sheep were placed outside on a regular basis to appease the dragon as sacrifices. Then that became human sacrifices. And on one occasion, it was the king's daughter who was nominated to be put outside to appease the dragon, and no one would take her place. And then up came St George, who offered to go and fight the dragon, which he did. And that, of course, is the imagery that we can all associate in our minds of St George on horseback with the lance, fighting the dragon. The lance, by the way, known as Ascalon. Winston Churchill, in the Second World War, his private plane, he called Ascalon. Symbolic there, isn't it? Fighting against the enemy, the lance that killed the dragon. And St George came through victorious. And that's what we think about, isn't it? So all of the historical facts that we may or may not be able to pin down and say that they are 100% accurate along the way, it's the story of George and the dragon that encapsulates that spirit of being English. And by the way, George is also, St George, the patron saint of other countries and also cities as well in various parts of the world, most of them in the wider European area. And there are those who love to mock and taunt that St George wasn't even born in England. But that's not the important thing. It's the spirit of what it's all about that really counts. And there's a few verses actually in the Bible that come to mind whenever I think of St George and the dragon. And it's Revelation chapter 12 and verses 7 through to 10. Or maybe 9, because that's where it really ends. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. A battle going on. That is the spiritual application from today's message at the church at Hiraeth. There was a battle going on. There was a war going on. And the question is, to all of us as individuals, what battle are we fighting? What war are we engaged in? You can guarantee that for as many people that will watch this video over time, there are as many battles that we are all fighting. Some of them may be ongoing ones that we struggle with, or we have struggled with over a long period of time. Some of them may be battles that have just arisen today. Some of them may be short battles. Some of them may be wars that tend to go on for a long period of time. And often in those instances, we lose the odd battle along the way, but as long as we win the war, that's the important thing, isn't it? And we read there in Revelation how there was a war going on between good and evil. And those battles in our own lives can often be similar. It can often be about the things that we should be doing and we aren't. Maybe the things that we shouldn't be doing. All sorts of issues in our lives, things that we need to defeat, things that we need to put to death in our lives. And on a day like today, and not just April the 23rd, but every day, we can take encouragement from those words in Scripture that there was a war going on. It was a battle, a conflict. But in the end, good won through. And we need to persevere. We need to push on. We need to stand firm, stand our ground. And isn't that really the spirit of what St. George's Day is all about? There's no coincidence that Winston Churchill named his plane Ascalon. That was the lance that destroyed the dragon. Whether you think it's an actual story, a myth or a legend or something, or combination of those, who knows? The reality is that's the story that we know, that we are familiar with, and that's the application that we apply into our lives. We're in a battle, we're in a war. Don't give up. Keep going. The enemy stands against us. He doesn't give up easily. But keep going, keep believing, keep persevering, and we're on the winning side.